Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing?
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
So this evening, Samson is online, and Sarah is joining us here in front of the camera, so that we can talk about stuff. This is your first time joining us for one of these.
It is. Well, I mean, officially.
Officially, yeah.
I give snide commentary all the time.
Yeah,
off
absolutely.
Camera.
Ellie says, "Hola." Ooh, I
Hola.
love that. She loves that hair.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. It's even better when it's like first thing in the morning and it's like
First
an
real,
actual
mohawk.
mohawk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad right now. So
It's the end of the day. Even mohawks need time off.
exactly.
Hey, Panic Roll is back finally after a long hiatus.
A wild panic roll appears.
A wild Panic Roll appears. Truth is, we had to ban Panic Roll, so
Ban panic roll.
the
Say
ban has
that.
been lifted.
It has.
You're allowed to return.
Ban hammer. But I mean, it's only legit if he tells us what he's having for dinner.
That's true. You're not really back until we know what you're eating for dinner. Sarah makes a good point. So
And I don't have any screens in front of me, so I have no idea what people are saying.
yeah,
No comments.
I mean, you could always have your phone up on the chat.
I
so you
could, but then I'll be like hunched over.
No,
with
just
a
have the
scowl
chat.
on my face.
Like, just have it on
my
the
goodness.
table.
That's
You don't have to be
fine.
holding your phone to use it. A Philly cheesesteak sandwich from where? Is it Gaglione Brothers? Because they're amazing.
You are obsessed with them.
I'm obsessed with them. I had a
Yes.
week where I ordered them like 4 days for lunch. It was
in
not
one
healthy.
day, 4 days in one
No,
day.
no. Let's not go that far.
Oh, okay.
Close though. I was tempted, but they are really good.
I always love the idea of a cheesesteak, but then I chicken out before I actually.
It's
Go
meat,
for it.
cheese, and onions. It's from
Yeah.
Domino's. What?
Domino's?
I don't know how I feel about this, but hey, if it's good, it's good.
You know what? They're actually pretty good sandwiches from Domino's. I'm
Yeah.
with you, Panic. I get those on occasion. I like them.
Yeah, you'll learn something new every day.
Damn.
So, we are going to talk about a new show. Well, new show. A show that came out on Amazon recently. We have opinions on things on this whole show, as we often do with stuff.
Yep.
I've been waiting to hear because we haven't talked about it yet, and
We've not.
you guys were the two I was thinking about when I was watching it. So
And I
I'm
think,
curious.
yeah, Panic Girl says just finished it today. That's good.
Awesome.
Because spoiler
Spoilers.
alerts for everybody who's watching. We are going to be talking about the entirety of The Boys, which includes big plot twist reveals, character deaths, everything. We're going to talk about the whole thing.
Yep.
So,
So, first off, my first impression,
yeah.
it sucks. As in, when we first started watching the first episode, I was like, I'm not gonna like this.
Yeah.
When the title screen came up and it had like the 5 or 6 warnings, nudity, violence,
Graphic
rape,
violence, graphic language, and it ended
gore,
with rape. Yeah.
I was like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, I don't see how this is going to be
Compelling or...
exactly
yeah.
something I want to watch. And the first, I want to say 5-10 minutes in, I was actually totally on the fence, like at the cusp of like.
Yeah. I don't
You know.
I don't want to watch this. Yeah.
So.
I've had the same reaction to the first episode. I was very like, I don't know if this is the kind of thing that I'm going to enjoy enough to watch to the end of the season. Because some shows are just really emotionally draining, and others are just, they just immediately make you go, fuck this.
Right.
And the first episode of The Boys was really close to that
Yeah.
for me. Samson, what were your opinions on episode 1?
So I had a little bit of advanced knowledge of what it was from the comics. So it wasn't as serious as a blow, and to be honest with you, the comics are way worse. So
I've heard that,
forewarning.
actually.
Yeah.
I'm sort of reading up on it.
The title, the warnings, though, I know exactly what you're talking about, because as soon as I saw that too, I was like, should I watch this? because that's not something that I ever want to see. He did it in a way that was like through it, but still, I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I did like it.
So that's the thing, is we watched the first episode, and at the end of it, Sarah and I were kind of like, okay, it's managed to keep our interest enough that we warrants watching episode 2.
Yeah.
And we ended up watching the entire thing, and I think it starts off really strong in that, like, this is making me really uncomfortable and like not like the show. Mm-hmm. So it kind of hits you with that uneasy feeling and that discomfort.
You okay?
And then it kind of rides that through the rest of the show.
Yeah. Like,
it doesn't really have any more of the kind of rape overtone or undertones or overtones or anything like that. It's kind of like the fallout of what's her name, Starlight, kind of dealing with kind of what happened, but it doesn't really have that same, like, it never puts any female character in that position again.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting that they basically kind of got that out of the way out of the gate and then said, we're just going to let that be a background noise thing, and we're not going to do it again.
Right, and actually what I thought was really interesting is that at first you're like, can we swear on this?
Yeah,
on this
absolutely,
stream?
yeah.
Fuck the Deep.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
You are such scum that I do not care
what happens
if you get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
By the end of the first series, I'm like, man,
I kind of feel sorry for him.
I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
I do, because it doesn't excuse his behavior. I'm not excusing that his backstory or the situation that he's in is a defense against the shit that he's pulled.
Right.
He definitely used his position of power and authority and his superpowers essentially to oppress and demean women and to assault them and rape them and do all these things to them. That doesn't excuse it, but seeing how sort of poorly he's treated and how his whole life he's been treated as a freak and as a joke, and he just wants to make the world a better place, I think, for humans and for animals. It's very sad. It's very sorrowful.
It makes him a very deep character.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's his superhero name, but like, it makes you kind of hate him on one hand, but also be like, God damn it, I can't completely hate you.
Exactly. And sort of, I feel like he actually has that room for growth and that sort of reflection and realizing, I can't keep doing this. Yeah. So,
Samson, what's your thought?
What did you guys think about how it kind of got flipped on him, and he, at least like in a metaphysical way or like in a metaphorical way, he kind of got raped too? Like, how did you guys feel about that scene? Because
I didn't like it.
Kind of interesting. It was interesting to me though that they flipped it around like that.
I know, but it was so blatant. It was so like I found it actually quite graphic and unpleasant because as a woman, boy, there are a lot of parallels, and it's so, if you or someone you know has been through something like that, seeing that sort of thing is actually very painful to watch. It actually is very upsetting. And I felt like the writers didn't need to show it because...
Right.
Sorry, Samson, what were you saying?
I agree with everything you just said. Like, I was actually watching the show with both of the boys, both of my boys.
Yeah.
And we actually paused it after that and had to take a break because me and Seth both thought we were actually going to throw up when that happened. Yeah. But the thing that was interesting, was how many men saw that and actually got a taste of what. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was some people's kind of wake-up thing, and it was it was interesting that it was a male because I think they probably related to it more.
So something I noticed about that episode in the opening credit, like where it tells you all the different warnings, it did not include rape in that episode for that episode.
Yeah, and actually, I think that was a misstep.
I agree. I actually think that was a severe misstep on that.
That was totally assault. That was sexual assault. I mean. She was getting off on his pain.
Yep.
And that's fucked up.
Yep.
And that was absolutely assault. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so upsetting. So, women have to deal with that so much.
Sorry,
oh,
one
yeah.
sec. Panic Roll is saying that Samson's kind of quiet compared to us. That maybe because he's remote, we kind of have to walk the line between him being too loud compared to us. But let me know if that didn't fix it, Samson, or Panic Roll, because I just turned Samson up a bit. Ellie says, I read up on the comics, so I was braced. Diggity, hi, thank you very much for joining in, says she loves the hair.
Thank you.
It was such a violation, it's very visceral and upsetting, so well done to the actor. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's interesting that they kind of went the kind of Hollywood trope, and we see this in, like if you watch Cinema Sins or anything like that, they always sin the, the woman who's been victimized or whatever, like looking in the mirror and shaving off her hair while crying.
Right.
Scene.
Yeah.
And The Deep does that in the last episode, and I was like, that. I don't know if they did that on purpose to kind of like flip that trope around, or if they were just being a little bit like cliche with the way that they wrote it and did that, but it definitely.
I actually didn't get that same sense from it, that it was a direct result of sort of that violation. I actually thought it was it was certainly a factor. I think it was just the culmination
of everything. Yeah.
Of him realizing that, I don't know, that he wasn't being called up, that he, that
he was being sidelined pretty much indefinitely.
And being used and being abused.
And so I think that actually is the overarching theme to The Boys.
Yeah.
Is people using each other to get what they want. Like even Butcher is using Huey, and he's using Mother's Milk, and he's using Frenchie to get what he wants. And Mallory used Butcher to get what she wanted.
Yeah.
And Vought is using the superheroes to get what they want. And like everybody's kind of using people.
Yeah.
And so it makes it a very cynical universe and very cynical characters to interact with.
And I think at first blush, you think there aren't any people that I can relate to. No one seems to have redeeming qualities. But I actually feel that the writers did a really good job, and that a lot of the characters have redeeming qualities. Just like normal people, we're all not stark good or stark evil.
Yeah.
We are complex creatures, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make us who we are. And I think they actually wrote that in really well.
Right.
Yeah,
like I feel like the characters are very Game of Thrones caliber, where like you've got these characters you're like, oh man, I fucking hate you, but god damn it, that was a cool scene.
Right.
Like I feel the same. I feel
full
that
disclosure,
way.
I've never watched a single episode of Game of Thrones.
And that's totally fine. You've seen a few clips of some of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
so.
And I definitely know some of the tropes and some of the memes.
Yeah.
But it is not for me at all.
Right.
So.
Samson, you're a huge Game of Thrones fan. How would you compare the characters in The Boys to Game of Thrones?
I mean, I can definitely see the parallels, and I see that, Amazon's probably trying to pick up and grab that audience, so I can definitely see some of that. But I think they did, I don't know, they did something that was kind of interesting to me. So I think probably my favorite character is Starlight, which is crazy because she's like super religious and stuff. But she was like the most level character to me, and like blows my mind in thinking about it, because that's normally the character I
but she ended up not being completely religious. Like, she actually had a crisis of faith and sort of reset her expectations of her religion and her devotion to it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very realistic and very relatable.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's just really weird that, like, halfway through the season, I was like, she's the coolest character.
Right.
And then I was like, wait, what the hell am I talking about? Like, how is she the coolest one? But I don't know. It's really good. I like the show a lot, so.
How about you, Ben? Who's your favorite character?
Oh, my favorite character. So, I have a soft spot for the normal human going up against superheroes type character. I loved Batman for a long time. I've kind of mellowed on him a little bit in recent years, but from Heroes, I loved the cheerleader's dad. What was his name?
Oh gosh.
Horn-rimmed glasses, HRG. I forget what his real name was.
Yeah.
But he was the best character on that show. He was the most compelling. Like, he was so driven. He was well written.
Sorry.
He had great scenes.
Is that now?
Just leave everything alone.
It was the cat. It was the cat.
No, you moved the chair.
It was the cat.
All right. Catastrophe averted. Sorry for the technical interruptions, folks. Noah Bennett, that's what his name was. Yeah, I loved him. So, in that regard, I like Butcher a lot.
Yeah.
I understand his motivation and his drive.
Yeah.
Of course, it gets kind of turned on its head as you get later into the season, especially in that last episode. But that doesn't change the character. I still like him a lot. I'm really intrigued by Black Noir. First off, I love the name. It's so like
awesome.
Cheesy
Pink
50s.
Jade.
Like yeah, exactly.
I love that he plays the piano. I love that he does like Japanese tea ceremonies.
He's drinking
like,
from the
drinking
the
from
straw through the mask. Yeah.
I love when he reached for the canapé.
And she kind of walks
away.
away.
Walked away. You could feel the sadness just emanating from him. It was, I'm looking forward to seeing more about him. So Butcher is your favorite, or is close to your favorite but not? So it's more.
When you're saying favorite, are you saying the character that I think is the most interesting in the show, or the character that I like the most? Because they're two different people.
That you like the most, that you either relate to, or you feel yourself drawn to them and want them
Butcher.
to.
And part of that is it's Carl Urban.
Yeah.
The one that I think is most interesting is the Deep. So, what about you?
Frenchie.
Oh yeah, Frenchie's pretty awesome.
Frenchie is my favorite. He's a killer, and he's a drug maker.
Yeah, and he's a gun runner. Yeah.
He is not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a good guy.
Yeah.
When he saw, what is her name? Is it Hideko?
Kimiko.
When he saw Kimiko in the cell, he wasn't like, yeah, whatever, screw this bitch, you know?
Yeah, his only reaction
was, I gotta save her.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta get her out, even if it's not because he was like, oh, she's gonna lavish affection and praise on me. Right. It was just, I can't leave this person in this situation.
Right.
And I don't know, and he keeps surprising me with his humanity. And
Panic Girl says, like they said in Wreck-It Ralph, just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
Exactly. Yeah. There are reasons he was doing the things he was doing. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I find in some ways he's no worse than some corporate CEO who is quick to fire 20,000 people because it's a better bottom line for him.
Right.
Or to, pay some hooker and get some cocaine up in his penthouse. I mean, that's,
Yeah, Ellie says he has compassion. And I agree.
Yeah.
Like, you can be a criminal and still have compassion.
Yes.
Just because you don't follow the laws doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Yeah.
And I like Frenchie because I think he's a complex character.
Yeah.
I love the story that he tells Huey when Huey was like, he asks about killing people or whatever, and Frenchie kind of is like, oh yeah, she was the most beautiful one I've ever seen, and she's the first person I ever killed. And he doesn't explain it. Yep. He doesn't say why. He doesn't say, oh, but she was a bad person.
Nope.
Nothing. He just, and that's it. And you're just kind of left going, I want to know more.
Exactly. He's very intriguing.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point.
And actually, I feel whenever they're in a fight scene or there's, danger, I feel tense and I feel tension.
Because you don't want
Because I don't want him to die. It's that visceral, sense. And I love a show that can do that to me. that can make me feel those emotions, because that means that they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And like you, I think the other person that I find fascinating, and I can't wait to find more about them, is Blackmore.
Yeah.
Blackmore.
I have to know more about
Black.
him. Yeah,
Noir,
Black,
noir.
exactly. Jess Amos, my favorite show is Hilda. I don't think I've seen Hilda. What is it on a streaming service or anything like that? Also, welcome. Hi. How are you? I'm Ben. This is Sarah. Samson is on the line.
This is Ayla. You can't see her, but she's here.
Yeah, we've got a cat
lurking.
prowling around. She'll probably be on screen sometime soon.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. Okay.
Come here.
I'll have to check that out. I will make a note of it.
Come on.
But
I'm trying to coax her up. It's not working.
yeah, she's resistant to that kind of thing. Jess, have you seen The Boys on Amazon? Out of curiosity?
Oh, yeah.
So, Samson, let's talk about Vought a little bit. What's the over-under on Vought from your perspective?
I mean, they're the real villain in the show. I know that, like, Homelander's kind of again, all of the characters have flaws, but they're the real villain. They're in it just for the money, and they're willing to exploit and destroy people's lives. They're horrible. Like, it's honestly kind of how I feel about most corporations. So
that actually, Ben and I were talking about that when we first started watching it, probably halfway through the first episode.
Yeah.
We were like, I think one of the reasons why we weren't sure we liked it is because it's too close to reality right now. Like, how corporations are just like twisting the minds of consumers and people and running the government and just...
Well, and the other interesting thing, social kind of commentary that it brings is this adulation of, authoritarian power, where like, oh, well, the police and the military, and if you don't love them, then you're a bad person and stuff like that. And so you kind of have this hero worship going on with, the heroes in The Boys that you kind of also get from people who are really defensive of law enforcement officers and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, they have the potential to do good, and many of them do good, but they also have a great potential to abuse their power, and a lot of them do it.
Exactly.
And they don't suffer any repercussions for it.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of the primary message of The Boys, is kind of this warning against putting these kinds of people up on a pedestal that's too high.
Well, and sort of, not paying attention to the problems that are actually there, just sort of glossing over everything. And it's like, either everything is perfect or everything is chaos. Well, no, you can have a good framework, but then you still need to,
have checks and balances.
And root out the people who are actually making it into a corrupt or bad situation. So
absolutely. Jess says Hilda is an animated adventure show. You saw The Boys, gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I think our rating is probably about there, maybe an 8 out of 10.
Maybe an 8, yeah.
I felt like it. Hey, Jess, thank you so much for following. We got our little Raven animation. Awesome. I think that's the first time we've seen that in a while.
I missed it. I'm gonna have to watch the video later.
We're gonna have to fix that because it's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Ellie says, I agree with Samson. Corporations are ruthless because there's no real check on your power. Yeah, I agree. Like, there's so much power in lobbies and in money that corporations are able to get what they want from the government because politicians are allowed to have those vested interests in these corporations. And you get, certain administrations that are appointing people that have direct conflicts of interest in an industry that they're supposed to regulate in their new position.
Yeah.
And it's like, of fucking course they're not going to do that. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy.
And definitely I think that's because we're seeing that sort of in the TV show, we're like, can't get a break from this. Yeah. I want to see some good guys win sort of thing. I want to see the juggernaut brought down because otherwise it seems to evaporate the hope that you have that we could actually make a difference, and we can crawl back from it.
I'm hoping that it finishes up like that. Like, I don't know how many seasons they're going to run it, and I don't know how the comic ends. Yeah. But I'm really hoping, because it's going to be that much better, because it's that much worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm really hoping that there's a happy ending to this.
Yeah.
Which ready.
But talk about cliffhangers, though.
Oh, yeah. That was a hell of a plot twist.
What a way to end off that season. Like...
I was like, and then it just, like, I was expecting it to be like a double-length episode.
Right.
Or something like that, because it got you to the point where they're in the front yard and they do the reveal.
Yes.
I'm like, and then the credits roll, and I was like, oh, mother. I was so annoyed.
Yeah. And can I just ask, or point out, I know we all watched it and we saw it happen, but pretty sure that the nanny and the baby were both blown up.
Yeah.
Butcher did not, hesitate. He wasn't, and I think it's actually true to character, because he's like, oh well.
Yep.
Like, either I'm going to kill myself, or, Homelander is going to do some real damage to me very slowly. So,
right.
Yeah, really more on Homelander than Butcher. I know Butcher's the one that planted the bomb and showed up and did all that, but like Homelander could have stopped that at any point, and he's the one that kind of, I don't know.
But he's so broken. He is so broken.
Oh yeah,
like,
he's a very.
Speaking of,
but he still has tragedy.
He does, yeah. He's. He was raised in a lab, like. But that's not going to produce a healthy, well-adjusted human being.
However, people still have choice, and they still make those choices, and they're still responsible for things that they do. So, to me, it's still on him, and he's a total bad dude. And,
yeah, he's a complete villain. But the best villains are the ones you kind of go, man,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only way I could kind of entertain that argument is if he were kind of stupid, but he's not.
No.
He's probably one of the smartest characters on that show.
I was going to say.
Up, so.
He comes off as being kind of stupid at the beginning, but then like he really proves that that's not the case later on.
I actually really like that. Yeah. So how in the beginning he seems like he's just kind of, let's go along with things. And then those layers peel back and you realize he's actually the one manipulating a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
So one of the things that I felt was really interesting, and again, this goes into like further like kind of deep analysis of like comic books and the superhero thing and all that stuff. But I feel like the Miranda when
Madeline Stillwell?
Yeah, Madeline. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah. I knew it was an M. Stillwell. Madeline. When he's like, tell me the truth, and she says, I'm scared of you. And I think there's so many levels to that, because she's scared of him in that moment. I think she's also scared of him as a woman. I think she's also scared of him as a human looking at a superhuman. And I think that is kind of a larger, like, she's the stand-in for humanity being afraid of these superhumans.
Yeah.
And so her response to being afraid of this potential is to control them.
Yeah,
and is to basically manipulate them and keep them on a leash by controlling their reputations and controlling what they've been told is important. So she spun the PR and the propaganda well enough that she was able to keep a leash on him for a while.
Yeah, but she also used his neglected childhood as another leash. I mean, she very clearly knew that she was posing as sort of a hybrid mother sexual partner figure, and absolutely used that to her advantage as much as she could. And I think actually she played it really well from that perspective. Is she knew exactly what buttons to push. She knew exactly how much praise to give him, how much censure, how much attraction. And
she's definitely a bad guy. I'm not saying by any means she isn't. I thought it was a really interesting scene and a really interesting moment that spoke to so many layers in the show and in like I said, social commentary and everything like that. So.
I think it also sort of highlighted that even though you may have superpowers, you may be strong, you may have laser beams coming out of your eyes, you don't necessarily always have all the power. And don't always, you know?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I think that was a really well-written, like, this is how a villain would beat a character like Superman.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fight him. You don't punch him into submission. You subvert what he's supposed to stand for.
Exactly.
You monetize it. You corporatize it. You put him to work for you.
Yeah.
And that's how the villains win in a comic book. It's not by building a doomsday machine. It's by hiring the heroes and then slowly corrupting them over time and undermining what they are.
Well, and look at all of them. I mean, except for Starlight, but even Starlight has sort of stumbled. They've all sort of fallen. Mm-hmm. You know, they've all succumbed to various human emotions or failings.
Right.
So even though they're superpowered, they're still
human at the core.
They're still human at the core.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Ellie says,
except for Black Noir, because he didn't really.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a government assassin thing. So I think he's still kind of a bad guy in that sense, but he didn't really do anything wrong. He was just kind of following orders. I know that's a stupid excuse, but he was the one that like didn't really.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that must be coming from the comics because there's no indication, or at least maybe I missed it, but there's no real backstory given for Black Noir in this series at all. And so he is a total unknown at this point. So you're right. He could be very evil. Could be any, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody that plays the piano that well is evil. That's all I'm saying.
Or
nobody who speaks German could be an evil man. Simpsons.
Wow. Very nice.
Sideshow Bob.
Very nice.
But yeah, I thought it was really good. When okay, spoiler alert again for those of you who have recently tuned in. Yeah. We're talking about The Boys, and we're going to reveal plot twists and spoilers for the end of the show. So if you don't want that, this is not the channel to be in. Thank you for tuning in. Give us a follow. Tune in next time. But we just want to warn you. So having said that, when Homelander kills her,
yes.
First off, I thought the way he killed her was kind of cool. Although not really realistic, because we've seen his laser beams cut through steel.
But
so how is he able to stop them?
He can regulate it, though.
We don't know that, and he can't stop the laser beams from hitting the back of her skull. Anyways, let's not get into the physics of it.
Physics don't belong here.
Exactly. Physics don't belong in the superhero conversation. I thought it was very interesting that I didn't feel like, Vought got what was coming to...
No, because she's not Vought.
She's just a mouthpiece.
She's expendable.
Yeah, so Vought is still out there.
Yeah.
She maybe got what was coming to her. I mean...
But also...
I don't think she was the bigger villain between Homelander, Vought, and her.
Definitely not.
So...
But, question, and you brought this up
as
well. Was it really Madeline? Or was it Doppelganger?
Yeah. See, I don't think it was Madeline. I think it was Doppelganger, because you see that character episode 4 or 5?
I think so, yeah.
And then you don't see that character again.
Yeah.
And I feel like Stillwell's the kind of person who, if she's afraid of Homelander...
Yes, she would have a plan.
She'd have a plan. And she'd be like, okay, you're going to stand in for me, like, if shit hits the fan or whatever.
Yeah, especially... And that was after sort of his big reveal that he's the one who took Compound V and actually started distributing it to sort of enemies of the state,
right?
Let's say. So, because when he says that to her, she is facing away from him and from us. Mm-hmm. And for me, in my mind's eye, I totally picture her like the different emotions that are going across her face, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Or shock, or anger and surprise and all those things, and then she schools herself and she puts that mask back on.
Yeah.
And realizes she's actually in a very dangerous position, even though she's surrounded by people. Mm-hmm. She's in a very dangerous position.
Yeah.
So she does what she needs to get herself out of the situation, and I think she did not take that car home.
Right.
Because that probably clicked to her that he is probably capable of pretty much anything, and so.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think it was a different baby then too? Because that's the only thing that makes me kind of that theory, but I really like it. I really like that
Could
theory.
be. I mean, she has access to Vought's sort of arsenal. She was aware of Vogelbaum's I think it was Vogelbaum's experiments. She was there from the get-go, sort of, and especially with...
Plus, I mean, we know her baby has superpowers, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Like, a woman in her position, she's not going to raise a super baby.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible that baby survived the explosion.
Possible. It's sort of two things, right? It's either not her baby.
Yeah.
Some sad, unfortunate,
random kid.
Yeah. Or it is a super baby.
Right.
Well, I'm wondering if that was the first time when it shows her and a Homelander together. I was wondering if that was the first time or if that was actually his baby with her. Because he makes a comment to her about being a single mom.
Yeah.
And there's never any indication of any father or anything. So I was kind of wondering. I actually thought that was like where we were going plot-wise, was that eating babies of her own.
But you'll notice that she had a ring on her left hand. She had a...
Did she?
Yep.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that could indicate something transpired. Now, not necessarily that is her husband's child, but I don't know. There's more to unwrap there.
Yeah, I feel like she's going to have to come back because they're going to have to explore her motivations for what drove her to succeed to the degree she did.
How she got into that.
How she got into that business.
She got started.
Like when she said, "Oh, I'm afraid of you," what that meant. Because it's very surface level, but there's a lot more depth to it. Yeah. So I imagine she's going to come back in the second season so that we get a better explanation of her motivations and her mindset.
But what's interesting is it does highlight a little of Homelander's arrogance. That there was no other. He firmly believes that he killed her, and that chapter is closed. There's no doubt in his mind that is done with and dealt with.
I mean, he's relatively smart, but he doesn't have the wealth of experience to have that kind of guile. Even the Compound V plan is, I'm just going to say, it's a fairly straightforward comic book villain plot. Oh, I'm going to go create villains that I have to fight so that people will love me. Yeah. Or so that that'll be indisposable.
It was me. I threw the rock, hit the squirrel out of the tree, and then I saved him.
So While You Were Sleeping reference for those of you who didn't watch early 1990s rom-coms.
Great movie.
It is a great movie. It's one of my favorite rom-coms.
I agree with that. It is an awesome movie.
Yeah. Sandra Bullock, Bill Pullman.
Yep.
Perfect.
But it's very simplistic. It's a very simplistic plot.
Yeah.
And, not something that you really need to invest a lot of time trying to sort of figure out who the source was.
Right. And it was a bit of a twist because I was kind of expecting that it was Madeline that kind of held that in reserve, and then just as they got in trouble, all of a sudden they show up. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So Vought put that into action, and then I was like, then he made the reveal, and I was like, oh, that makes sense because he knew that it was being distributed, and he was using A-Train to do it. Vought wouldn't use one of their heroes to do it.
And here's the thing that made me sort of discount Vought and specifically Madeline as being the instigators of that, or the sort of the brains behind it, is it wouldn't allow her to maintain absolute control over the situation, because as soon as Compound V is out of her hands and out of her sort of purview, she has no oversight on how it's administered, to whom, what kind of experiments are happening. So to me, it was too big a risk corporate-wise for them to do something like that. It's a much safer bet for Vought to go after things like, domestic terrorists or the airplane thing or some natural disaster or something that proves that the government is incapable of handling security for themselves.
What's funny is early on in the show, I was like, oh, they're responding to bank robbers and stuff like that. But what bank robber in their right mind, knowing that this team of superheroes that just straight up kills bad guys, they don't make any bones about that in the show. Yeah. Who would think that that's a good idea? It was it makes sense to me that Vought is that's creating this crime wave, or these criminal organizations, or they're the ones kind of prompting these criminals to go out and commit crimes on home soil in New York City. That way the heroes don't have to go very far away from the cameras. They couch it as, we've got this crime analytics division that follows up on leads and all this stuff, when in reality, I mean, they're creating all this to begin with.
Well, it's scripted in a way, and
right.
And it makes me think of a parallel in another movie, Minority Report, where Tom Cruise's character is shown to murder this guy named Leo Crow. And, that sort of triggers the whole movie.
Right.
But what it actually is this guy, Leo Crow, is not Leo Crow. He's part of this whole plot to prove that the pre-crime unit is actually needed in order to...
That it's infallible.
Yeah. So the sort of the creator of this whole thing actually set up this sort of Rube Goldberg contraption, this like conspiracy series of events to actually have that transpire. And Leo Crow, this guy, was told that his family would get money for his death, and so he was willing to die in order to give them money. I feel that Vought probably did something similar.
Right.
If
you go
if these criminals
bank,
know that you've got this speedster who's going to come out of nowhere and like just blow through you, who's going to put themselves at risk for that, unless they're given something big enough that they're willing to die for it.
Right. Yeah.
So
I can see Vought paying criminals to commit crimes for the soups to fight so their families are taken care of. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's totally it.
I don't know. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe they're just going on standard comic book logic of, people will always want to commit crimes.
I hope not, though. I actually hope that Vought has really considered all of these things, and it's really put this whole thing in place, because I feel that would be much more a much more powerful villain to have to try and beat.
Yeah.
So
I think it'd be very cool.
Yeah.
Also, I find it interesting that they set out, like, Butcher and his team, the boys, set out to kill Soups. And in 8 episodes, they killed 1.
Yeah.
And everything that happened after that was kind of the fallout of them killing Translucent. And, like, kind of the story that comes as a result of that. And I think that is a good way to go.
Yeah.
Because Maeve, by the end of it, you're kind of going, okay, I feel sorry for her. She doesn't seem like a bad person. She just let herself be manipulated.
Yeah.
And she at least is still capable of feeling like guilty over it.
Yes.
We don't know anything about Black Noir. A-Train, at the very least, feels some guilt over what happened with Popclaw. Still a terrible person.
I actually have no sympathy for A-Train at all.
Nope.
I actually find him quite a despicable creature. You know? I don't care that he had a rough childhood or whatever. I mean, it just, for me, he's the character, even more so than Homelander. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you do, it doesn't move my stone heart.
Yeah, exactly. Ellie says they seem pretty blown away that they were able to kill even 1. I don't think they've only killed 1.
No.
I think they've killed 2. Because we have not heard anything about Lamplighter other than he killed Mallory's grandchildren.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's no mention of other than, he retired. So we're replacing him.
Yeah.
I think that Mallory either killed him or still has him.
Yes.
Up in her little mountain compound that she has.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think, Samson?
See, I was thinking to be the villain in part 2. I think he's the worst of them all, to be honest with you. Or he's the guy that's kind of organizing and like.
No spoilers though. If you've read the comics, if the comics give more details about Lamplighter away.
No, I don't know anything what I read was less than the show was. So show is more than So I don't know nothing in forward, but I think he's going to be the villain, and I think he's the one that's actually masterminding everything. I don't think it's Homelander. I think it's him.
Interesting.
I mean, it's hard to say because we don't know anything about his character other than like a vague idea of his power set.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also make the argument that maybe Lamplighter didn't kill Mallory's children. Maybe Lamplighter went to protect them, and Homelander showed up, and the kids died during whatever happened. Like, that would be an interesting twist as well, that Lamplighter is basically hiding out from everybody.
Which would make sense, because Homelander would totally kill some little kids.
No problem. I mean, he killed a kid on the plane. Like,
he had no
compunction whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that would be an interesting twist, is if everybody thinks Lamplighter did it, but then he shows up and is like, yeah, I've been hiding out because Homelander came to kill... Like, he went to kill the kids, I went to stop him.
Yeah.
My powers got out of hand, and I killed the kids on it, and I feel terrible about it. But I wasn't going to show my face again because Homelander would have absolutely killed me.
In fact, Homelander killed the senator or whatever the mayor of Baltimore.
Yeah. Or
Detroit. Sorry.
Baltimore.
And his kid.
His kid was on the plane.
His kid was on the plane, and then of course the extended scene with the flight 37 or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that.
And he was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's time to go.
That was great and awful at the same time.
Yeah, it was a really well done scene.
It was really well done. So
it was difficult to watch.
I think the other scene that I absolutely loved, very first scene with Maeve standing in front of the armored truck, that was fucking brilliant. I loved that so much. That that gave me goosebumps.
I really loved how, like, when the truck stopped and the guy was sitting there, she's just smiling at him. She's like, I'm going to have so much fun with you. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Diggity says, Homelander seems too obvious as the main villain, but sometimes fans come up with much better, more complex storylines and plot twists. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we do that.
We do.
Ben and I geek out, and we'll watch a movie, and we'll enjoy it, and we'll be like, yeah, it was really good. And then we start picking it apart, and we're like, it would have been better if they had done this and this, or if they had, used this plot hook instead, and we end up making like a much better version of a lot of films.
Yeah, exactly. We might rewrite much better endings. Ellie says Homelander only sees humans as the ants that give him purpose. I agree. They're all expendable. They're worthless. They're I see that in fanfic all the time. Yeah, that's basically what we do is fan fiction. We just don't write it down.
That's pretty much,
So, Samson, what other things about this show do you want to talk about, if anything?
So I actually have a really cool, fun fact about the show.
Okay.
Something I think, I don't know, but if anybody would know, it would be Sarah. So I think I was watching the commentary Beyond. I want to say it was that movie, but I'm not positive. And they're talking to Simon Pegg, and he makes a reference to having a character in a comic that looks just like him, and then the artist approached him to sign a release and stuff. Well, The Boys was actually the comic, and the character that looks like him in the comic is Huey, his son.
Yes.
So he's playing the dad. Yeah, okay.
He's playing the dad of the artist made Huey look like Simon Pegg, and Simon Pegg ended up playing Huey's father in the TV series. Yeah.
Speaking of, when
from Star Trek though,
I don't know if it was from Star Trek or like from the Star Trek Beyond commentary.
I don't even think I've watched all of the commentary, so I'm afraid I
don't know.
Okay.
I can't.
I don't know,
but I have heard that anecdote.
Yeah.
I have heard that anecdote.
Okay,
yeah.
Ellie says it's true as well. She saw that. Apparently, it was on that.
Yeah.
All right, Panic Roll. See you when you get back. About that. Oh, Simon Pegg.
Yes.
When we first saw him, we were like, "Oh, that's Simon Pegg," and then he talked, and we were like, "That's not Simon Pegg." Because his American accent that he's using doesn't even sound like Simon Pegg doing an American accent. Yeah. It sounds like a completely different person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, when Haley Joel Osment, when when Mesmer showed up on the screen, I was like, I think I even paused it. I'm like, oh my god, it looks like the kid from Sixth Sense. And then Ben was like, look at the screen. And of course, when you pause Amazon Prime, it actually calls up the characters that are appearing in the scene, the cast in that scene. There it is. Joel fucking Osment.
I was like,
oh my god,
why does this kid look familiar? And she's like, why does that look like the kid from The Sixth Sense? I was like, oh my god, it is. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And Billy Zane.
Total side note, my mom has worked with Billy Zane on a couple of movies, and he's a very pleasant, outgoing, funny person, and he used to entertain the cast and crew with random operatic solos and whatnot. He's apparently a very good singer. So,
who knew?
Yeah.
It's funny because every character he's played in a movie, for the most part, has been a character that you're like, God, I hate this person.
Yeah.
Except for, did he play the Shadow?
Played the Shadow.
Yeah, other than the Shadow.
Yeah.
So
he played Phantom.
Oh, the Phantom. That's what.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That's right. Yeah, it was Liam Neeson who played the Shadow.
Yeah.
The Monocrest.
Which is funny that Billy Zane basically was one of the first major superhero movie stars.
Yeah, he was.
So,
in sort of our modern age, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Had that lovely, what was it, purple and green?
It was purple and black, I think. With the silver, like, skull.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Classic.
Billy Zane. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was a good show. I felt like 8 episodes was not enough.
Some
it's over.
Sort of criticisms about it.
Yeah.
I didn't like how the Deep really is sort of portrayed as this yokel, pathetic loser type of thing, because he talks to fish, you know. I know maybe they were kind of spoofing on the whole Aquaman, Prince Namor thing, but I feel like it's like he's the substitute for the fat guy. Because there's no fat character that they can laugh at and sort of demean and he's the klutz and he's the stupid one or whatever. They go with the environmental tree hugger stand-in.
The animal lover.
The animal lover, exactly. Yeah. And the jokes about, oh, yeah, you want me to touch it? Fine. Well, I felt that so, like, frat boy stupid that I was really turned off by that. And I felt like it was sort of out of place. Like, did it really need to be in there?
Yeah, it was an unnecessary level of crassness that you don't see anywhere else in the show.
Exactly.
Like, other than, like, the over-the-top superhero sex club.
Yeah. That's
really the only other place where it's, like, that crude.
Yeah.
And
I didn't like it because, actually, environmentalism is a huge thing, and
it's important.
And it is important, and them kind of, and I don't know if it's just part of the theme that, oh well, it's big corporate, whatever, superhero thing, but I'm like, the writers still could have done a better job with making him sort of a sad sack character without making a lampoon out of environmentalism and about wanting to take care of animals.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was particularly brutal how they showed him good while trying to do good. Like, that was...
Yeah.
A lot of that was unnecessary. It was like, holy shit, like, just stop, guy. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know if it was just an attack on Aquaman, because that guy gets so much crap. So, I don't know. They still could have done a better job with it, though, I agree.
Yeah.
But I think that was just the biggest criticism I had. I really can't think of anything else that sort of stuck out that was, I don't know, seemed sort of out of place or just really unnecessary.
Right. Yeah, there weren't a whole lot of parts and like moments in the show where it was just like, oh, that was just poorly done.
Yeah.
So
except for his assault scene.
Well,
yeah. But we had talked about that.
So
I don't know, but overall, actually, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued, and I really hope they actually do a second season. I don't know if there's been news or confirmation.
Oh yeah, they're already signed for second season.
Fantastic.
So,
okay.
I feel like the reason they ended it abruptly when they did was to increase the chances that they were going to get a second season.
That's true.
So, something that I had heard about the show is that it was very, like, the comic was really graphic and like, touched on a lot of like really mature things like, you know, sexual assault and all that stuff. And so when they said they were bringing and like very like misogyny and sexism and all that stuff. So when they said they were bringing it to the TV, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And I have to say, I feel like they handled that topic well. I don't feel like they glorified it the way some TV shows and movies do when they're like, oh, well, we're gonna highlight like how bad sexual assault is, and then they like really kind of linger on it for an extended period of time. And they, you know, they very clearly showed like it's a negative thing, pure and simple. There's no positive aspect to it, without like hitting you over the head with it at every opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, Diggity says that a lot of Hollywood projects fetishize the whole sexual assault thing.
They do. I mean, look at that ridiculous 50 Shades of Grey. Like, oh.
Which, yeah, is not technically rape, but it definitely is.
No, but
like, it's not sending the right message about like consent,
exactly,
or boundaries, or limits, or
even that sort of play and everything like that. Like, if people involved in that culture actually have a great deal of respect for their partners and would never treat their partners that way, even regardless of what sort of, whether you are the sub or the dom or anything like that, you are not, like, respect is the key thing in communication. And so they really twisted that. But then you've got all these people who are like, you know,
it's the greatest thing ever.
This is exactly, you know,
it's so sexy. It's
so
like,
sexy,
God, no.
And you're like, no, bad. That is a bad relationship. He is an asshole and he mistreats her. That is bad.
Yep.
And she needs to stand up for herself.
Yeah. Welcome back, Panic Roll. Ellie says, without actually addressing how it continues to affect your life and how your peers dehumanize you. Yeah, I agree. Like a lot of movies overlook the long-term aspect, other than to make it really dramatic. And like I said, the young woman shaves her head to reflect that she's a new person or whatever.
And then the very next day, she's empowered and she's going after that dream job that she's always wanted, or she's, you know, she's no longer
bring justice to the people who did it. It's like, that's not the way humans heal from stuff like that.
Exactly. That's not even how people sort of behave. Like, each person reacts differently because we're all different in that respect. But to kind of gloss over, like, oh, have a good cry,
right? And
then wake up the next morning, you're ready to get things going. It's so it's
dismissive.
Insulting.
Yeah, it's insulting and dismissive.
Yeah. So.
Yep, I agree.
But I still feel that they dealt with those tough topics quite well, given the sort of the condensed format of an individual show and then the short series. I think.
Actually, thank you for bringing that up. That reminded me of another criticism that we had. The kind of romance subplot between Huey and Starlight is so forced, and we were really kind of like ragging on it hard. And then we kind of started talking about the fact that it is only 8 episodes. They're trying to get from point A to point B in a narratively, like, concise and expedient manner. But it did seem really weird that, like, he went from dealing with everything that happened with Robin, and he clearly loved Robin and still does, to, you know, in the context of the narrative, it's been like 3 weeks, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm falling in love with this superhero. And it was like... Oh my
God, it still bugs me.
Oh, it bothers me. And again, I understand why they're doing it. It still bothers me.
But they don't have to do it. In some ways, and in some respects, I feel like they don't have to do it.
Well, because it doesn't have to be a romance. It could be like, oh, you know, we hit off really well.
We connected.
And then she can still feel betrayed that he's like kind of using her.
Of course.
And everything like that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I hate those ham-fisted romance plots being shoehorned into every single movie. Like, not every woman needs a fucking romantic partner.
Yeah, and not every story needs... Sorry, Sam, so we haven't let you talk.
Yeah, sorry. That's what happens when you're not here, is we just kind of...
I have a thought on this, though. So, the way I read the love interest between those two was, it was her anchor to the city and to the job and to reality. And it was her anchor that... Her connection of, like, wholesomeness. That's how I read it. Not so much like for him. I looked at it more as something for her, as like an anchor point in all of the craziness that she was dealing with the new job and the
right.
I don't know. That's kind of how I read it, but I can see what you guys are saying, because it is kind of.
I agree with you on that. Except Sarah made the really good point. Like at the point where they're in the park, I think, and this. When they're in the park, right when Huey tells her about the Compound V, like right before that, Sarah was like, she's like, as a woman, every single warning bell in my body is going off, telling me don't get involved with this guy.
Huge red flags.
Like, he literally just had his girlfriend die.
Yeah.
And then you are basically, you know, he's kind of used you a couple of times. Mm-hmm. He's not telling you anything about himself. He is taking you to a hotel to be intimate and romantic. He
doesn't have a job.
He doesn't have a job. Like, she's like, everything about this interaction is like, this guy is not someone you want to deal with.
Yeah.
And
he's a nice guy.
He's a nice guy, sure.
But and maybe that's another criticism I have, is it kind of highlights that sort of nice guy trope that so women are expected to play along with it and go against their gut instincts because he's a nice guy.
Right.
And as a woman who has dealt with that and has known many women who have dealt with things like that, that's a huge fucking no-no. Yeah. You don't write a scene like that without giving Starlight sort of the opportunity to actually talk through those red flags to herself, and showing some concrete proof. Because, of course, we know Huey is not a bad guy, but we're looking at it from his perspective.
Yeah.
You know, we have that inside intel. Starlight doesn't have that. She's only seeing what he's showing her and how he's behaving. And for any rational woman, and for women in general, you know, we shouldn't be saying, oh yeah, don't worry about that. You know, everything will work out, because that is clearly not a good standing for a relationship.
And Ellie says, so she said a few things. Instead of having your threat assessment be skewed in the insulting questions, I missed that. I don't care for the relationship. It reminds Huey that soups are human. That's true, but you can do that with just being good friends. Because a dude can't see value in a person or woman without romance or sex. I mean, in Hollywood, yes.
Yeah.
Starlight is really sheltered and doesn't recognize any of those signs. So, and Diggity says, but isn't she a really innocent young woman lacking experience? Yes, maybe, but that's still badly written. Like, she's so innocent to the point of being like, why is she the only character that is like heavy-handedly written badly?
Yeah, exactly.
From the perspective of, oh, I'm a little down south country girl that is all into God and whatnot, and I just believe everybody. It's like, I don't think people like that actually really exist.
I mean, because it's still the modern age. There's still the internet and, you know, television and everything else. And she's still traveling around to these festivals and whatnot. She's still interacting with other people. Yeah. And even seeing interaction between other couples and seeing relationships, you know, because it's not like when you go to one of those Christian festivals, everyone is on their sort of best behavior. You're still going to see arguments. You're still going to see, you know, toxic and poor relationships. Right. I don't know. I just feel like her naivete does not completely counteract those red flags that she should still be seeing. I mean, even from a naive sort of Christian country girl, he doesn't have a job. He lives with his dad, but he's never introduced them.
Well, that's the other thing is, like, you could easily have explained away a lot of those red flags by having him early on be like, hey, I'm going through a lot right now. I left my job because I'm trying to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, rather than it being something where, 5 or 6 meetings in, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I quit my job after, like, she kind of felt used and, like, a couple other things have come up. It's like, I don't know. They could have gotten ahead of it and made it the kind of thing where it would make sense for her to kind of go, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I understand that.
Exactly.
Instead, it was kind of just like, bombshell, and then they meet again, bombshell, and then they meet again, bombshell, and she's just like, oh, everything's fine. And I don't know. I didn't like the way that romance was written. Again, I know it's expedient.
Yeah.
I still wasn't a fan.
Yeah, it kind of makes her look unintelligent.
It does.
And she's not.
Yeah.
She's very savvy.
Yeah.
So.
I can agree with that. Is there anything else we want to talk about other than just this? I haven't had the chance to read any new comics in the last week or two.
No.
Samson, have you had the chance to pick any up?
I have not, but I am going to be grabbing, and I don't know, it's kind of fresh, but I'm still going to try doing it. I'll stay a little bit behind, but I'm going to try reading the House of X stuff.
Okay, cool. I like that idea. Sarah, you've got a comic you've been reading, haven't you? Isn't it like Horizon or something like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's by my bedside table.
You haven't actually read any?
I haven't actually broken it open yet. No. Hi.
You need to do
I have
that.
another cat. I have a kudo now. Come on. I am the crazy cat lady.
She is. But that's okay, because we love her.
Yeah. Kudo was our rescue, our stray.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
I had
think
something
any
else I
other
wanted to
comic
show,
stuff.
and I can't
Yeah.
seem to find it. What the heck?
I'm staring at Ben right now.
Give me 1 second.
Nah, it's fine. Oh, Samson, by the
There you
way,
go.
we got you a gift while we were at Comic-Con.
We did.
I'm gonna...
Ellie says I have to
is
head
it
to
a
bed.
surprise?
No, it's
No, I'm showing it to you on the screen, on the
stream.
stream.
Hey, hold on a second, because I'm doing the logo thing. I'm not looking at the screen.
Oh, no, alright. Look at this, look. Is it showing up actually okay?
Yeah, it's showing
Is
it
that
fine.
better?
If you move it to your left a little, yeah, there you go, and down just a bit. Right there. There you go. It's not quite in focus, but that's okay.
Is that better?
No,
What is
it's
that?
worse.
What is that? That looks awesome. What is it?
So there was an artist at Comic-Con who, turn it over on the back. He does a series of art that's like kind of Japanese tourism posters based on Godzilla-related stuff.
Yeah, the kaiju.
Yeah, the kaiju.
Nice.
It's like the
Like old train
like
posters
Japan,
in Japan. Yeah.
Japan Kaiju Tourism Board
That's
or something
so
like
badass.
that.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big Godzilla fan, so
I kind of want to take one of these out to show off.
now
I'll let
let's wait.
Samson. Yeah, I think you'll really like it. So.
Day
They
3
look
of
awesome.
Force Move the
That's
book
so
source.
cool.
All right, Diggity, get some sleep. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you
ya.
later.
And of course, I got this for Ben.
Oh
this-
yeah, the Captain America.
This is an Alex Ross numbered lithograph of Captain America. And
Nice.
yeah.
I love it.
Did you get a chance to get it signed by him, or?
No, he wasn't there when I was there, so I don't know if he actually made an appearance, but
He probably did.
probably
but
did. It's so difficult though, like when we're up in the mezzanine running the games and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's so difficult for us to get away.
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And even if you did get away, you'd have to stand in the line for 4 hours
Yeah.
to get an autograph.
exactly.
Exactly.
Not my idea of a good time.
Yeah.
So there is one thing that I want to show off, and then I think I might have to call it a little bit earlier tonight. I'm starting to get a migraine forming, so I don't want to stay on too long. But this is really cool. I want to show it off, so we're going to do that. So some of you may know that we are working on a couple of board games one of which is called Monster Crush. So we've got an artist working on some character art for the game, and so we have some samples and whatnot going on here. So we've got our Dryad character, sample art, and our Orc.
I love the Orc.
The Orc is a good one. Our Gargoyle character, kind of looking all coy. We've got the Banshee, who just looks super happy to see you. We've got our Death Knight. So we're pretty happy with the way the art is panning out for the game. We're really looking forward to being able to show off like some completed cards and some additional variations on the different monsters and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. So we should be showing off some completed cards in the next month maybe?
Or so?
Yeah, probably. So, yeah.
Yep.
What's the plan for date for the game or anything, or is that kind of like too far off still? Or
Yeah.
That's still pretty far in the future, so.
I think probably once we get like maybe 90%, 80 or 90% of the art, we'll have a better idea, but it's just, you know.
Art is such a difficult thing to try to gauge.
Yeah.
Like, it can take forever.
Yeah.
So.
You know what though? That it seems like, I don't know if it's a he or she, but it seems like they're moving pretty quick. That's a lot of stuff.
Well, you know, we actually and was I the one who came up with this idea?
Yeah, it was your idea.
Instead of doing so, let's say we have 100 unique sort of pieces within the deck of cards, and instead of having to draw or produce 100 individual items, I suggested, well, why don't we have a template, because we've got 5 or 6 distinct creature types,
like orcs,
orcs and ettins and liches and whatnot.
Right.
Why not draw a template so you have a lich, and then they're in like a certain pose, and then you can swap out their accessories to fit whatever specifics we have. So like
their interests.
Their interests, exactly. So if you have a lich who likes, karaoke, you can have a microphone on one. But then another lich who likes
fortune telling.
Yeah, fortune telling.
They
can have a crystal ball instead of the microphone, so you don't have to redraw every single asset. You can just do a template, and then so you've got one main template that will take the bulk of time, and then you've got, let's say, 3 subs, and then those take, just a couple of hours to swap out. So.
Right. Yeah, it was a really good idea because the artist we were working with, we were able to cut the cost on it significantly.
Yeah.
And it'll decrease the turnaround time on the art too.
Yeah.
So.
Good idea. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Not
Project manager.
Find the shortcuts.
Yeah.
It's not something that really would have worked for Villains and Henchmen.
Not at all.
But it's working for Monster Crush, so that's the key thing.
Yeah, because I think it fits with the mechanic, right? And it also actually, the sort of the next layer I was thinking of is actually also makes it a little more difficult to memorize things on a card or whatever, because the images will be similar, but not exactly the same.
Right.
But you're not going to remember necessarily, like if each one was totally unique based on their interests and hobbies. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're excited about that.
Yes.
We'll be showing off some more progress on that as time goes on.
Yeah.
But I think I am going to have to call it.
All right.
I keep blinking really heavily, so it's
Yeah.
time to go. So sorry for the early log off, everybody, but we appreciate you showing up. We appreciate you being here. And for those of you who followed us tonight, thank you very much. We are actually at 91 followers as of tonight.
Thank you.
So we are only 9 away from our next art giveaway. So please give us a follow if you are here and you are not already following us, because you will get entered into a drawing to get some cool art from Villains and Henchmen.
Yeah.
Or the comic that we're working on, or whatever else Samson kind of has that he might want to do. So.
And let me know if you actually want me to appear in other sort of streams. This was kind of a one-off, but
Yeah.
If...
One vote for me.
Same here.
Okay.
I like having a third opinion to geek out about stuff.
Yeah.
It works out well. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks very much again, everybody.
Bye,
Have a great
everybody.
weekend, and we will see you Monday for another Ravensdale Geeks Out. And you might get some Sekiro between now and then. We'll see what happens.
Awesome.
So.
Bye.
Thanks, Samson.
See you guys.
See ya.
Later.
Waving at the camera.
Bye.